First of all, we're gonna start with Georgia and Ole Miss. Jordan, what you got on this game?
Yes, so this is a huge game, right? Not really in terms of the SEC East. That'll be next week for Georgia, but Georgia Ole Miss, it's kind of a big premier matchup in the SEC. Fun fact, actually, the only SEC team that Georgia has not beaten under Kirby Smart is Ole Miss, so he will have a chance to atone for that one. The key to this game, I think, for Georgia is Carson Beck has to have not I wouldn't call it the game of his life, but he has to have a really good game. Ole Miss is really good at getting after the passer with their pass rush. Quinshon Judkins, who for my money was the best running back in the SEC last year as a freshman, is having another really good year. Georgia's rush defense will definitely be put to the test in this one. Jake?
Yeah, so obviously I'm a big fan of Lane Kiffin. Big fan of what he's doing at Ole Miss right now. I think Georgia's gonna have to score because Georgia struggled with Missouri last week. I believe they were tied at halftime,
It,
maybe
it
maybe
was
even losing.
10-10.
Yeah, they were tied at halftime and they came out in the second half. They still struggled. So they were a second half team in that game. I feel like, to beat Ole Miss, they have to play a whole physical 60-minute game. Um, get after Jackson Dart, um, get that run going with Kendall Milton and Jason Edwards, and then get Carson Beck out of the pocket, make some throws.
Yeah, so
Evan.
I just want to give you guys a spoiler. I picked Ole Miss in this game. This is the first time I picked against Georgia. Here is why. And this is a little bit on a limb, but Jake mentioned a little bit. I don't think Jordan mentioned it. Jackson Dart is a very capable quarterback. And Jordan says that Carson Beck has to play, maybe not the game of his life, but a pretty good game. Most importantly, Carson Beck has to play fast. That's been a problem for Georgia at times this year. Sometimes not. Sometimes, like Kentucky, they rolled over Kentucky. I didn't think Kentucky was going to compete because they don't have the power on offense too. Missouri is better than Kentucky, but I still didn't think they had the power to compete because I don't think they have the power to match Georgia toe for toe on offense. I think Ole Miss does. I think Ole Miss has been playing good all year. Yes, they lost to Alabama, but still to be at one loss in the SEC at this point is pretty impressive. So I picked Ole Miss as the upset because I think they're going to score right away, and I don't know if Georgia is. But it's going to be interesting to see. Not that Georgia is going to go down sleeping. It's good. It's going to be a good game.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about what each team did last week, right? You had Georgia, as Evan mentioned, beat Missouri last week 30-21 in a game that was tied at halftime. Georgia had a 14-0 run in the third quarter to kind of put the game away. Missouri made it a little interesting late, but I think Georgia had the game in hand. And then you had Ole Miss, who beat a Texas A&M team at home 38-35 as the Aggies missed a field goal as time expired. Jake, let's just get your thoughts on what happened last week.
Are we talking about Georgia or are we talking about Ole Miss?
Both.
Yeah, I mean, so like I mentioned earlier, Georgia struggled. They 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 started fast in that game, but ended up going slow, having Missouri tied the game up before halftime. And as for the Ole Miss game, I don't know what happened in that Ole Miss game. A&M had a chance to send it overtime. They just missed the field goal at the end. I believe it was actually blocked. Am I wrong on that?
It might have been blocked. I don't know for sure if it was. But all right, score predictions, guys. I will let Evan go first.
Ole Miss 35-34.
Okay, Jake.
Yeah, I've been a big fan of Georgia, obviously, this year. As you can see by my jacket. I gotta go Ole Miss, though. I gotta go 35-30. They pull off the upset this week in Athens.
All right. I definitely respect you guys' opinion, and Ole Miss is definitely capable of pulling off this upset. Georgia, in my opinion, just it's too good right now, right? 26 wins in a row, haven't lost at home since 2019. To me, somebody's gonna have to beat them in Athens for me to believe it. I'm gonna go Georgia wins this game 35-23. the Michigan Wolverines going on the road to Happy Valley to face the Penn State Nittany Lions. Jake, I will let you start with your thoughts on this game.
Yeah, we saw Penn State struggle a couple weeks ago. Michigan's been about the only team in college football who has been consistent all year. I know you have teams like Florida State, you have teams like, even maybe even Alabama, gets credited the one loss to Texas. But after that, they've been on their game. Nick Saban has really got those boys ready to play. Um, like I said, Michigan has really been the only um consistent team this year. I think Michigan just keeps on rolling. I don't think a trip to Happy Valley stops them.
Evan?
So you would think this would be an interesting game for the upset, right? Penn State is ranked 10, I believe, and obviously Michigan has been great, but I think Michigan has beaten every test they've had so far this year. Can't say the same about Penn State. Penn State looked pretty. I know it was close for a while. On offense, they had nothing against Ohio State, where other teams have. Even Maryland got a little bit. Even Rutgers got a little bit. Penn State had nothing on Ohio State. So you got to take that into consideration. Yes, it's at home. It's not the whiteout. So that, everyone remembers the Michigan game a while ago. It's not that. So they don't have to deal with that. It's an 11 o'clock noon for my friends, Jake and Jordan. So they don't have to worry about that. It should be a little more of a relaxed environment. But I think, so when you look at the players, right, you got J.J. McCarthy on one side, you got Drew Eller on the other side. Really good quarterbacks, right? Nothing bad to say about them. Are they great, though? You look at their yardage. They haven't had to throw the ball a lot this year. You'll put up 200 yards a game, maybe a touchdown pass, but really it's the running game, it's the rest of the offense that's kind of picking it up. They're kind of game managing, right? So there's that aspect. I think Blake Corum, I think you look at that in the two-headed monster Michigan has, they just have more of the firepower. It should be an interesting game based on the fact that it is at Penn State. I just think Michigan is the better team, though. And that's how I see it playing out.
All right, so with this game, this is the first real test for Michigan, right? They've played 9 games up to this point. Not really the caliber of Penn State or Ohio State, who they'll play in a couple weeks. Um, Blake Corum, to me, well, first, let me mention the running games for both teams. For my money, these are the two best running teams in the country. You have Blake Corum, Donovan Edwards on one side for Michigan, and Nick Singleton, and I apologize if I forget this guy's name, Katron Allen, I believe, running back 2 for Penn State. So it would not shock me if both these teams have a runoff, if you will. But the game at Penn State to me is interesting. Evan mentioned that they don't have to deal with the whiteout, at night. That's very intimidating. We all remember the first play of the game where Michigan had to call a timeout because it got too loud. Again, if you guys haven't seen that, I recommend you go look that up. It was very cool to see as a college football fan. Penn State head coach James Franklin, he has gotten a lot of slack because he has not been able to beat either one of his two biggest rivals, right? Michigan and Ohio State. He has gone, I believe, 0-11. Penn State hasn't beaten Ohio State since 2016, and they haven't beaten Michigan since 2019, I believe. So will this be his big win? I will let Jake go with the score prediction on this one.
Remember, if you're betting on this game, Drew Allen and J.J. McCarthy ungo in passing yards. Um, I got Michigan. Like I said earlier, I think Michigan will keep on rolling. I don't think the trip to Happy Valley will stop them. I got Michigan winning this game 31-21, Evan.
Yeah, well, usually if Jake has bad betting advice, I would call him out on that. I would say that's probably a pretty good bet. I would say under. I think this is going to be one of those games. I actually don't even remember who I picked in this. I think I picked Michigan. I talked up Michigan, so I'm going to go Michigan 30-20.
All right. First off, let me just say I like Jake's betting advice. I mentioned the running game of both these teams. I think it will be a old school Big Ten game where you have running and defense, right? I think the home field advantage for Penn State makes a difference in this game. I think James Franklin picks up that big win. Give me Penn State to win this one, 31-27.